Hi, this is Jack from tritiumsoft.com talking to you today about TravelLingo7. So TravelLingo7 is designed for travel planning and travel resource. So the features of TravelLingo7 are travel notes, world maps, GPS position, reverse address lookup, foreign language translation, global current time, currency exchange rates, travel picks, reservation picks, country information via the World Fact Book. So there's a lot of things to cover. So if we start by looking at our globe up here on the top, that's a fast button that brings us to a political map of the world. And what that means is it gives us the world by country. And so it's very convenient for looking to see what countries are in what locations and who their neighbors are. So that's very useful. We can zoom in and zoom out and go around the page. The next thing we have is we have this folding map over here on the upper left. If I click that, it brings me to GPS favorites. And so I can store my favorite locations in this program and go through them very easily. And so it also gives me this GPS button over here. If I press that, it's going to tell me where I'm at on the map. So it'll tell me where I am here, but it also tell me where I'm on the map. And you can see Pebble Beach in California, Pebble Beach golf links. So what it does is it calls up the internet, and the internet says, well, this is where the map thinks you are, and in terms of the coordinate. And so it's very accurate, it's very good, it's very useful. And so it's a great way to find out an address. Another thing I can do here is I could just say, well, maybe I want to put my own pin on here. You can move around. I'll just type in golf, and I press this fave button, and all of a sudden I've created a new pin. And so instead of one pin, I now have two pins, and I can zoom out. And so it's very convenient for making custom maps and things like that. And so if I go back, you can see I'm right back, zoomed into the same level for that Pebble Beach. And if I zoom out, right, I'm still there. And so it's just very handy. And if I press this next button, I'm to my new position. Well, let's say that I didn't want that position. I just press delete and it's gone. Another item on here is we have this X comma Y button over here. And this gives us the ability to put raw GPS coordinates into the map. So there's two kinds of GPS coordinates. There's one that is minute, second, and there's one that's decimal. And so this one takes decimal, but you can use the minute, second as long as you take all of the extra characters out. And it'll be pretty close, within like 20 miles. And so sometimes it's very convenient. And there are programs on the internet where you can change, but most GPS these days is in decimal form. So we have latitude, longitude. So if I press this clear button here, I can go in here and press, let's just say 42.6 and 10.7. And if I press the fave button, it's brought me out here into a section of water near Italy. So it put me off the Italian coast there. And let's say I don't like that position. So I could press XY again and clear, and I could put a different one in, like 34.3 and 10.7. Now I'm off the coast of Tunisia. Let's say I still don't like that one. So we could do 48 at 10.7. So all of a sudden, I'm over here in Germany. And it'll show you the city I'm in, Stadtwang, state of Bavaria. And it's got the specific GPS coordinates. And so if I press XY again, it goes away. And so it's just a handy way of navigating around the world. And if you don't want something, just press delete. You can delete this. The other thing I can do is I can zoom in. Say I want to be zoomed in. I can change the zoom level, and instead of pin 3 here, which automatically generated, I'm going to say Bavaria. And it still says pin 3, but that's because the pin 3 is still there. But if I go back and I delete pin 3, now all it says is Bavaria. And so this is really handy because now I can zoom way out and you can see where my pin is. The other thing it does is it shows me the distance. So I know the distance from Pebble Beach to Bavaria is 6,000 miles. And so it's handy for calculating distances. So if we go back out here, so we've gone through world maps and GPS positioning with reverse address lookup. One other item that we didn't cover is I can press this here button here and it'll show me the address where I'm at right now. And so this is a very accurate description of where you are. And if I press here again, I go back to Pebble Beach. And so it's very handy for finding the distance from a location. Getting back to our list here, we also have global current time. So let's just say that you're on the airplane and you want to know what time it is where you're going to be touching down. On these long flights, sometimes you can get confused about what time it is, different places, because you're flying with the sun or against the sun. So if you press this time zone, this button here, we have two different items here. On the top you can see here is a time zone map. So the United States also publishes a time zone map that shows you time zones in different places. It's kind of fun to look at, but it's more useful to use the GPS. The GPS also does time, and it does the current time right now, and it's not wrong. And if we go back out here, go back to time again, you can see it's broken down by the Arctic, Asia, Atlantic, Europe, the Pacific. And so let's just say that we were in Europe. So we want to know, we're going to go to France. What time is it going to be near France? And we know, well, I don't see France necessarily on this list, except for right here, Europe, Paris. Okay, so I could press this button. And it tells me right now it's July 3rd, it's 7:49. So it's 1949, so 7:49 at night, France time. And if I press launch the GPS map, boom, I'll go right into my GPS map program, and it brings me to Paris. I can see all the cities around it, and it's interactive. So I could press GPS if I want, or I can zoom in and press GPS. So it's very handy. You can see where the airport is, Charles de Gaulle, Eiffel Tower. Very handy program there. And it tells me the time is 7:50 there. So if we go back to our list here, we also have currency exchange rates. So we have these two cash buttons, cash and cash to. And so under setup, I can modify what I'm changing the cash into. I can also change these languages. So if I want to say, I have the Cambodian riel down here, I would say cash to, I just press the button. And let's say, well, we were going to go to France, so I'm going to need euros. So we go down here until we find the euro. Click that, and all of a sudden you can see I'm going from dollars to euros. I press close. Then on cache 2, press cache 2, it brings me to see what the current exchange rate, dollar to a euro. It's almost 1-for-1. So and I can also type in, well, maybe I want to get, $1,000. That's a lot. Let's just say 500 or 300. $300. I'm going to get 278 euros. I press the done. I'm back inside the app. Everything's great. So that's currency exchange rates, and you can pick other rates. You don't have to be in dollars. You can go from different currencies. It's very handy if you're shopping around to see if a rate is good at a currency exchange at an airport. The other thing we have here is we have travel picks. So if we look at this picks button here, it brings us into this submenu where we have photos. If I press this next button, we can go through these different photos, and these are some nice photos. And what this allows you to do, so if I tap on the screen, I can zoom into the photo, which is great for when you're using pictures of your reservations. Sometimes you can't read something because it's a picture. Maybe it's a real picture, it's hard to read. So you can zoom it in, and it'll just keep going until it hits a limit and then goes back, becomes small. And if I just go next and last, it'll maximize the photo for the screen you're using. So I don't have to, I can get a nice pretty picture without having to resize it manually. And so that's just real handy for either having photos that from your trip or that you want to show somebody. Sometimes your photo library gets all jam-packed full of museum photos or work stuff, whatever. And so it's nice to be able to put it somewhere where you'll be able to find everything and organize it easily. And you can import from iPhoto. You can launch a camera and take a fresh picture. So we could launch the camera and we could just take that photo, right? And now I have a photo in here. And just say, well, maybe I don't like this photo. Let's delete it. It says image deleted. I could save it if it was a mistake. I could take another picture and save it, or go next. I go back, it's gone. So it's real handy for importing photos, taking photos. But the other thing I can do is I can export it back to iPhoto. So let's say I made all these reservations. I put the reservations in here, and it's getting close to the time to departure to go on the trip. Maybe I want to back up in iPhoto. I can export all my travel pics to iPhoto, and they're all going to be together. So it's very handy for moving things in and out of iPhoto. And it doesn't delete anything in iPhoto. It just adds to it. So it can copy it, or it can put more in. And so it's very handy for, especially it's designed for reservations. You could do it for other things like museum pics, what have you. But the reason it's so handy is when you're making hotel and plane reservations, you can put them in here, and instead of fumbling around to find the information, you got all the pictures that you've stored in here. And it's easy to move them around or send a text message, things like that. So the other item that TravelLingo7 has, so our foreign language, we really didn't get into this much yet, but under setup, you can see we have Lingo, Lingo 2, and Lingo 3. And so with each one, there's a language 1 and a language 2. And what that means is language 1 is the language I'm starting in. Language 2 is the language I'm going to get translated back. The order doesn't matter that much except for convenience, because once you're in the program, you can switch it easily. But let's just say that because we're going to France, maybe I met a traveler or met somebody who needs to translate French to Cantonese. So instead of English, I could just change this and go down to French. And you can see going from French to Cantonese. And if I close this, and now I press this Lingo button, so I have two choices. For Lingo 1, I can either press Lingo, and you can see it goes right into the web, and it starts off in French, and I could say, right? So I could just, say whatever I wanted there, and it's going to come up with the translation. So I could say, oui, right? And I can change it here too. I don't have to stay with it. The whole point of it is for it to be convenient and fast. So when I'm done with it, press done. Let's go back to setup again. I'm going to change this back to English because I don't speak French. So this is good for copying and pasting stuff in or getting stuff out. And so if I press this dice button up here in the corner, it also goes to Lingo 1. And so you have 3 Lingo buttons. So you have the ability to go quickly between 3 different default language setups on the internet. It's very quick. It's very convenient. It works all over the world. And so if I type in here, let's say if I was going to Hong Kong or something, let's say I need a cab. I need a taxi. So, and then you can press this other button here. Sometimes if you wanted to check to see if you got a good translation or not, or you want to switch. And so I can just go here, copy this. I can also press this speaker button.
我需要一輛的士. I need a taxi.
And so it's really handy, right? And if I go back in here, under the notes, I could just paste it in here. And when I touch down, I have some phrases I can show to a local if I needed help for transportation. If I press save here. So now we've saved these items. We've modified this note, the travel note. And so what's great about travel note is I can make any kind of note I want, save it. And so here I have where is the train station, so I can show that to somebody. Or I need a taxi, so I can point and show it, and a local should be able to read it and help me if they want to, right? And by pressing save though, what I've done is I've copied it to clipboard. So if I exit out of here and go to notes, just to demonstrate, I can paste it in here, and my whole note is in here. So everything that was on that screen is copied into this note. The other thing I can do with it is I can go into Outlook or some other email program. I can also paste it because it's copied to clipboard. I can, whether it's text message, email, doesn't matter. There it is. And so that's very handy for sharing your trip information with your relatives or coworkers or whoever. And so if we just get out of this, so if we go back in here, we can see we've gone through most of these items. One other item we have here is country information. So we have the World Factbook link here. So right here, World Factbook, explore all countries. And so the government provides information about all the countries in the world, basically. So there's a few things that are harder to find, but there's 261 countries available. And let's just say we want to go to France for the Olympics. And we just click on France, and we have pictures of France. They have 100 photos you can look at. The country flag, country map. locator, and then down here it has all this information about, so the background of France, one of the most modern countries. And so we have this great link inside our program, so you can read up about the country that maybe you want to go to. Maybe you want you see what the flag looks like, something like that. And so that's available under WFB, World Fact Book. It's provided by the United States government. And then lastly, just to show, well, we have the current time on the bottom here. So you can see it's Wednesday, July 3rd, Los Angeles time. You can see America, Los Angeles time zone, if I just press on it. And that updates wherever I go. So when you go somewhere and you connect your phone, it'll update to where you are. We also have, if we look at Lingo 3, just to demonstrate, so English to Italian, I could change it to Italian to English. Lingo 2, we have English to Thai, could change Thai to English. If I don't like these, I go back to Setup, and I could change this, maybe instead of Thai, I want Indonesian or something. So you can see it just changed it right here. English to Indonesian, press close. If I go to Lingo 2 again, English to Indonesian. So easy to modify. And that's it. And you can see here's the use for the travel note. I can put my flight information. Here's where I'm departing, returning. And so this information, you could take photos, but you can also put information like that in these notes and save it in emails, move it around. Just handy to look at, maybe somebody's phone number or something. And hope you like the program. TravelLingo7. Also see World Flags Dojo 2. Both great programs from TritiumSoft.com.